Miketz, at the end. Outline of Torah portion. Pharaoh's dreams. Genesis chapter 41, verse 1 to verse 13. Genesis chapter 41 begins with the two dreams that Pharaoh had. At the end of 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing beside the Nile River. Genesis chapter 41, verse 1. In his first dream that Pharaoh saw, 7 sleek and fat cows came out of the river, and they grazed on the swamp grass. After them came 7 more calves, miserable looking and lean, and they stood by the other calves at the edge of the river. The miserable looking and lean cows ate up the 7 sleek fat cows. In his second dream, Pharaoh saw 7 full ripe ears of grain grew out of a single stalk. After them, 7 ears of grain, thin and blasted by the east wind, sprang up. Thin ears swallowed up the 7 full ripe ears. Pharaoh summoned all the magicians and wise men of Egypt to get an interpretation for his dreams. But all of them failed. Then the chief cupbearer remembered Yosef. Yosef interpreted the dream chief cupbearer had, and he got restored to his position by Pharaoh, as was also interpreted by Yosef. So chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh about Yosef, the dream interpreter. Then Pharaoh summoned Yosef, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon. He shaved himself, changed his clothes, and came into Pharaoh. Genesis chapter 41, verse 14. The accounts of Yosef's story reveals that Yosef did not have a fair trial. He was just thrown in the prison. What brings Yosef out of the prison is his divine ability to interpret dreams, which was a divine gift from Adonai, his God. His brothers and those around him must have thought that life just goes on. But the reality is that amid all the troubles around us, God is working his plans and purposes for good. Up until now, nothing has gone right in Joseph's life. Even the summoning by Pharaoh. Where would it lead to? There is no guarantee. But the stories of his father and forefathers, their encounters with Adonai and his own dreams kept him trusting God. He knew there was a purpose to all what he was enduring. The psalmist says, "Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your hearts before him. God is our refuge." Selah. Psalm 62, verse 8. Yosef interprets Pharaoh's dreams. Genesis chapter 41, verses 13 to 38. They quickly brought Yosef to Pharaoh. Yosef shaved himself, changed his clothes, and came into Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, "I had a dream, but there is no one who can interpret it. I was told that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." Yosef replied, "It isn't in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer that will set his mind at peace." Genesis chapter 41, verse 16. Pharaoh gave a recount of dreams to Yosef. Genesis chapter 41, verses 17 to 24. Yosef told Pharaoh that the dreams are the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. Yosef said, "There will be 7 years of abundance throughout the whole land of Egypt, which will be followed by 7 years of famine. Famine will be truly terrible, that Egypt will forget the years of abundance." He said, Pharaoh had 2 dreams because the matter has been fixed by God, and that God will cause it to happen soon. Joseph's interpretation of the 2 dreams put Pharaoh's mind at peace. Pharaoh may have listened to many interpretations given by wise men and magicians that he summoned, but only Joseph's decoding of the dreams made sense. In the beginning itself, Joseph said, "God will give Pharaoh an answer." and only Yosef was able to follow the interpretation with an action plan which came swiftly and confidently. Pharaoh sensed that the interpretation, as well as the solution that Yosef gave, was divinely inspired. Pharaoh said to his officials, "Can we find anyone else like him? The Spirit of God lives in him." Genesis chapter 41, verse 38. Yosef encouraged all of Egypt to store up provisions and prepare themselves for the lean years to come. When you have plenty, we too need to be wise to set aside some provisions for the lean years. Also, our concerns should not only be for our lives on earth, but also to store up treasures in heaven. Do good deeds, invest our time and resources in the kingdom of heaven. Joseph put in charge of Pharaoh's household and of the whole land of Egypt. Genesis chapter 41, verse 39 to 44. Pharaoh realized that God had given Joseph discernment and wisdom to handle what is to come. He said, "You will be in charge of my household. All my people will be ruled by what you say. Only when I rule from my throne, I will be greater than you." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Here, I place you in charge of the whole land of Egypt." Genesis chapter 41, verses 40 and 41. Not only Joseph was put in charge of Pharaoh's household and the whole land of Egypt, but he was also given 3 symbols of authority, which signified the transfer of power to Joseph. He was given Pharaoh's signet ring, the one that he was wearing in his finger. With this, Joseph received authority to enact laws and sign them into action, and also to sign documents in king's name. He was clothed with fine linen of the best Egyptian quality, which signified his place in the governance of the land. He no longer appeared as a Hebrew among the people. He was given a golden necklace, a necklace made from the most valuable metal, which needs to go through fire 7 times to reach its purity. It was one of the highest honors Pharaoh could bestow upon someone. He was also given the second best chariot to ride. As Joseph traveled the land in the chariot, criers called out for people to bow the knee to Joseph. Zaphnath Paneach. Genesis chapter 41, verse 45 to 57. The Torah says Pharaoh called Joseph by the name Zaphnath Paneach. Many theories have come up as for the meaning of the name. Egyptologists claim the second element of the name contains the word na, meaning life. Jewish tradition claims the meaning is a revealer of secrets. Another theory offered by German Egyptologist George Steindorf is the God speaks and he lives. Pharaoh also gave Osnath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, as Joseph's wife. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, harvest was plentiful. Joseph stored the produce in the cities. What was grown outside each city, he stored in that city. Joseph stored grain in quantities like the sand on the seashore. Harvest was plentiful and beyond measure. 7 years of abundance ended, and 7 years of famine began to come. There was famine in all the lands as Joseph predicted, but there was food in the land of Egypt because of the discernment and wisdom God gave Joseph. People cried to Pharaoh for food. Joseph opened the storehouses and sold food to the Egyptians. Moreover, all countries came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain because of the famine was severe. throughout the earth. Genesis chapter 41, verse 57. Because Joseph trusted in God and remained faithful and obedient to God, many lives were saved during the famine. Ephraim and Manasseh, Genesis chapter 41, verse 50. Joseph's wife Asenath gave him 2 sons. The legend says that she became a convert to faith in the God of Israel. Joseph named his first son Manasseh, for God has made me forget all my troubles and all my father's household. Genesis chapter 41, verse 51. He named the second son Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. Genesis chapter 41, verse 52. Joseph taught and raised his children to know the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They grew and developed in spiritual character, like their forefathers, and became heads over 2 of tribes of Israel. That's why on every Friday night at the Sabbath table, fathers lay their hands upon the heads of their sons and bless them by saying, "May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh." Joseph's brothers returned to Canaan. Genesis chapter 42, verse 25 to 38. Joseph ordered that the brothers' containers be filled with grain and their money put back in their containers, also to make provision for their journey back to Canaan. On their return journey, one of the brothers realized that his money had been restored. Money was back in the container. Upon returning to their father Jacob in Canaan, they told everything that happened to them and about the Lord of the land and how Shimon had been put in custody until they returned to Egypt with Benjamin, so that their statement can be verified. Next, they realize that each man's bag of money has been restored. Each man's money was put back in their own containers. At this, they became very afraid. They thought they would have more trouble in Egypt with the governor. But Yaakov was not pleased to send Benjamin with his brothers to Egypt. Yosef felt the financial hardship his brothers were enduring because of the famine. He could not give the grain for free openly, as it would raise many questions. Yosef loved his brothers, and out of love he restored the money to them secretly. Brothers go back to Egypt with Benjamin. Genesis chapter 43, verse 1 to verse 34. The famine was severe, and they were running out of their supplies. Jacob wanted his sons to go back to Egypt and buy some more grain. Yehudah said, "The man expressly warned us, 'You will not see my face unless your brother is with you.'" Jacob didn't want to send Benjamin with the brothers to Egypt, but there was no other option, as only in Egypt grain was available to buy. To avoid starvation and to liberate Shimon, Jacob agrees that Benjamin may accompany his brothers to Egypt. Jacob said, "If that is how it is, take a gift for the governor. Take some of the land's best products, some healing resin, a little honey, aromatic gum, opium, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Take twice the amount of money with you. Return the money that came back with you in your sacks. Take your brother, Benjamin, too. May El Shaddai give you favor in the man's sight, so that he will release to you your other brother Shimon as well as Benjamin." Yaakov equipped his sons for the journey. Then he prayed for his sons that they may have compassion in the sight of the governor. Yaakov has done everything that he could and trusted in God that his sons will return to him safely. When the brothers arrived in Egypt, they received a warm welcome from the governor and his servants. Joseph inquired about their father, about his health. They sat down together for a meal. The 11 brothers bowed down before Joseph. Finally, Joseph's dream was fulfilled. Joseph detains Benjamin. Genesis chapter 44, verse 1 to verse 17. In the morning, Joseph ordered the manager of his household to fill their brothers' sacks with plenty of grain to restore the money to each one of them. He said to put my silver goblet inside the pack of the youngest and restore also the grain money. Manager did as he was told, and the men started their journey back to Canaan. Before they were far from the city, Joseph sent the manager after them and instructed him to overtake them and accuse them of robbing the silver goblet. Joseph's manager questioned them exactly the way he was instructed by Joseph. But the brothers said, "We even brought back the money that was found in our containers. How would we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house?" Eventually, the goblet was found in Benjamin's container. They were struck with grief, and they returned to the city and came before Joseph and prostrated before him on the ground. Yehudah said, "God has revealed your servant's guilt. So here we are, my Lord's slaves, both we and also the one in whose possession the cup was found." But Joseph replied, "Heaven forbid that I should act in such a way. The man in whose possession the goblet was found will be my slave. But as for you, go in peace to your father." Genesis chapter 44, verse 17. Joseph's offer was to sell all the brothers free except for Benjamin. Now the brothers are facing a test of their character. Will they take Joseph's offer, or would they refuse to abandon Benjamin?